This story begins by showing us a little girl with wings, very badly wounded. Through tears she says that she will be stronger in order to put an end to every last injustice and inequality. Thus we travel several years into the future. In the present day, that little one, now grown, finds herself in the middle of a battlefield facing the heroes of this story. Here we discover her name, for she calls herself or is known as the Conqueror Lufas Mayful. They begin the combat without delay. Lufas knocks the healer unconscious, blocks the archer's arrows, and fights hand-to-hand against the bear, whom she defeats with ease. In the same way with the archer, whom she seizes unawares and finishes off by piercing him with a rain of swords. At that moment the dwarf intervenes, and with a powerful blow drags Lufas several meters. And when the protagonist was about to finish him off, he activates the self-destruction of his artifact, which generates a great explosion throughout the place. Nevertheless, Luf comes out unscathed. At that instant the hero appears, but the protagonist notices and lands a blow on him. However, this was a water clone created by the mage, and the real one appears behind her. Lufas, with a smile, makes it clear that she expected this. In this way we see how the hero is pierced. However, Lufas had not counted on the fact that this was the hero's plan. Thus we see him use the skill climax and regenerate his whole body. Lufas tries to pull away, but the hero, gripping her hand, does not allow it and runs her through with his sword. This is taken advantage of by the mage, who, using a subspatial sealing spell, captures Lufas. With all the heroes looking upon her, she begins to laugh and exclaims that they are magnificent and that it is possible that they could defeat Orm, the Demon King. Now at last our protagonist, the player who controlled Lufas, looks at the comments after his defeat. Suddenly, on his screen there appears Venus, the goddess of creation, creator of the world of Xgate. Supposing that this is a message from the very developers of the game, because of its importance he accepts the role. In that instant he is transported to another world. Upon opening his eyes he hears a group of people, but he also realizes that his body is somewhat different. When he looks in a mirror, he notices that he has the appearance of Lufas. Dazed, he asks himself whether he is in a dream or whether he truly entered the game. Lifting his gaze, he observes how the elf is terrified. Our good protagonist was thinking of asking something kindly. However, upon uttering a single word, an overwhelming pressure encompasses the whole place and the people fall to the ground. Realizing that he activated, by mistake, the skill intimidation, he calms himself. Everyone is left bewildered, but that horrified elf says that there is no doubt whatsoever that they have just resurrected the conqueror. Lufas approaches him and, looking him straight in the face, asks him to explain to her what is happening. Under such an intimidating gaze, the elf ends up fainting. With everything quieter, the king explains everything. That 200 years have passed since they sealed her, and that in order to defeat the Demon King, who is still alive, they tried to summon a hero with the technique Xgate. However, she appeared. As a good enthusiast of the game, our protagonist begins to think how great it is that they used Xgate, since originally it was mainly a man. But leaving that aside, he notices the faces full of terror of the people, and so he thinks that he must leave that place quickly so that they may calm down. He tells them that his intention is not to change the world, for although they defeated her, he is happy with the result of that combat. Moreover, he is no longer Lufas but rather a young woman with her dreams shattered to pieces. Spreading his wings, he tells them that right now his desire is to see that world and to appreciate it. For that reason he asks them to forget about him and to keep trying to summon the hero. Having said this, he takes his leave. Upon going outside and seeing the wide world, he becomes excited and exclaims that now indeed, he will be able to journey through the world of Xgate Online, which he loves so very much. As he is flying along, he asks himself how it was that he could return to his original world. However, he quickly dismisses its importance, saying that he will worry about that later. He then sees a tower that rises above the clouds, and so, as his first destination, he heads toward it. Then our protagonist explains to us that Xgate Online is a fantasy game in Misgars, a dangerous world. And one of its keys is the system of wars between humans and elves, adding that the different nations fight among themselves, and the nation that wins can absorb and merge with the one that lost. Another characteristic is its chronicle system. In it, the actions of the players are recorded and they become part of the official history of the game. And since he trained Lufas and rested, he leveled up and spent a lot of money to be one of the very best players. In that way, for the first time in history, he managed to unify Misgars, and moreover he occupied a prominent place in the system and even became a semi-official character. However, a player dominating the game is not fun. Therefore he spoke with other high-level players and they divided into two groups. Luffy's group and the heroes group, the Army of Light. Thus they decided to declare war on each other and had the greatest battle in history, to the point that they even forgot about the official boss. We return to the present. Luffy arrives at the top of the tower, which turns out to be her base. The Celestial Tower. Mayful opens the door, and upon entering she observes how everything is just as she left it, although somewhat deteriorated. Feeling nostalgia, she sits on her old throne and thinks about the moments she shared with her companions. Suddenly, a sky-blue-haired girl appears. Upon seeing our protagonist, this girl smiles, and drawing near she tells her with enthusiasm that she has been waiting for her for 200 years. Luffy, confused, asks her who she is, something that devastates the sky-blue-haired girl. But even so, she introduces herself as Dina, her faithful counselor and attendant. There Luffy remembers how, when she created the base, she placed an NPC in the tower in the game, to whom she gave a strange setting, something like Luffy's counselor. Our protagonist is left confused upon seeing that an NPC acquired consciousness of her own and had been waiting for her all that time. She asks herself whether that world is not inside the game. But leaving this aside now, she apologizes to Dina and congratulates her for doing a great job protecting that place while she was not there. Luffy explains to her what happened and how it is that she returned to life. Having said this, she asks her to tell what has happened during all that time. Dina begins by saying that the heroes who defeated her were dubbed the 7 heroes, and each one founded his country. That 4 died of natural causes, but the 3 longest lived still live. This leaves our protagonist intrigued, and he wonders whether they might be players like him. Dina continues by saying that the Demon King is still alive, since he crushed the 7 heroes. Luffy asks her whether there is anything else she ought to tell her. Then Dina mentions that the 12 celestial stars are well. At this Luffy explains to us about the 12 celestials, for their official name is those of the Conqueror. Basically, they are 12 monster NPCs who accompany her. She mentions that she had the good fortune to obtain rare and difficult monsters as companions, whom, those most powerful, she nicknamed the 12 celestial stars. She remembers how there was a time when she thought that any great boss had to have his 4 typical generals. Upon hearing about them, she asks how they are doing. Dina answers that she knows the whereabouts of 6, since 2 joined the Demon King's army to take revenge on the humans who defeated her. Luffy is left disappointed upon seeing that they resorted to that, and therefore she assures that she will scold them. With this she sets forth that her first objective will be to gather the 12 celestial stars. In her mind she mentions that she will also take the opportunity to see whether the 3 heroes who remain are players like him. Thus Dina shows a map and points out that the nearest one, who is Ares, is in Ispel, a place where there also lives Megrez, one of the 7 heroes. Knowing this, Luffy spreads her wings and prepares to depart. However, Dina stops her and asks whether by any chance she plans to go without preparing, or whether at least she has money. Luffy answers that she does not, and asks Dina whether she has any. Dina answers that she does not either, for she ended up poor because she waited for her for such a long time. Understanding that they must earn money, Dina mentions that it would be complicated, since the whole world knows her. In response to this, Luffy points out that 200 years have passed, and moreover that since in that place there are no photographs, no one will be able to recognize her appearance. Dina rejects this outright, saying that the races who live a long time, like the elves, will remember her. Moreover, her wings draw attention in a bad way, for they are considered abominable among the winged beings. Amid so many things, Luffy asks her what they are going to do, to which Dina answers that there is only one way to earn money, a job in which they will not look at her past nor her identity, that is to say, to be an adventurer. Being so, we see them in Idalir walking in the city with Luffy dressed suspiciously. Upon arriving at the guild, they look for decent jobs. There they find one to exterminate orcs. Here Luffy explains to us that when one defeats an orc there was a 3% chance that they would leave behind meat that would increase one's life. A classic option for farming. Upon seeing the pay, they decide to accept that mission. In this way, we see them in the village of Iali. They speak with the village chief, who tells them the situation and begs them to put an end to those monsters. Dina and Luffy promise that they will take care of it. Thus they go deep into the forest and find the orc's lair. Dina, shaken by the appearance of those monsters, encourages Luffy to finish off every last one of them at once. Our protagonist accepts. She takes off that coat that bothers her, and, spreading her wings, sets herself to finish the mission. But first she looks at her attributes. There she observes that she has the maximum level, just as she was in the game. Knowing this, she understands that everything will depend on her. Snapping her fingers, she uses transmute. Then we see how the earth transforms into swords. In an instant, she finishes off several orcs. However, more orcs come out of the lair and surround her. A gigantic hand emerges from the cave, for it turns out to be the orc chief. Lufaz does not bat an eye, and from her perspective she looks on as all the orcs who were trying to attack her move far too slowly. Disappointed, she begins to finish off each and every one of them, thus generating a rain of blood. Upon seeing this scene, the orc chief is left dumbfounded. At that moment Luff places herself before him and begins to remark that they are far too weak. She turns to look at him and asks him whether by any chance he did not see what she just did. The orc chief, filled with despair, attacks her with everything he has, but upon seeing that she came out unscathed he is petrified with fear. He tries to retreat, and in doing this he accidentally knocks over a torch that spreads the fire. Sunk in despair, he tries to attack our protagonist. However, Lufaz, teleporting herself right before his eyes, tells him that they are not weak at all. It is just that she is far too strong. Meanwhile, from the orc chief's perspective, he observes her as a gigantic creature, a deity who is about to put an end to his life. In reality, Lufaz gives him a slight blow with her fist on the forehead. She mentions that this cannot even be considered a combat, since it is not even useful as a game. In that manner, the orc's head is destroyed right in front of her. Luff remains staring and says, "This is nothing more than a massacre."